Before we really get started, would you guys join me in just a word of prayer? God, thank you so much for the opportunity to come together and grow in faith and in work and serving you. Let this time together be refreshing and a time for personal growth. Bless our time together, not only in this session, but in the weekend. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So I'm really excited because I'm a total nerd, and so I'm going to nerd out a little bit on this session a little bit, but I think we've got a really good mix of people in here. I think we have a lot of school employees, right? Those who work with school marketing, teachers, and then a good chunk of you guys are church, maybe communications, pastors, administrators, stuff like that. So just a note that this presentation, I will be talking more how I use it for marketing purposes, but everything is completely customizable. So whatever works for you and your organization, you can make adaptations and changes. So as I'm walking through things, just kind of be taking notes of, you know, this is almost great, but if I shift just a little bit, this will work really great for my organization and what we're doing. And just a reminder too, this is new for probably most of you, and every habit on average takes about 2 months to really start feeling like a natural thing. So as you walk away today, it might seem a little overwhelming, but I encourage you to really give it a go and try for like 2 months. I'm going to ask for 2 months. And then if you're like, Becca, this isn't working, guess what? I won't know if you stop. It's fine. So with that, I always like to give a little bit of context. Is that my thing beeping? No, we're good. Okay. A little bit of background, especially with organizations and about myself, just so you have some context for where I'm going. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma in 2014 with a degree in journalism, specializing in public relations. Yeah. Perfect. So I have been working at Holy Trinity in Edmond, Oklahoma now for just over 4 years. This is my third best practices and my first time speaking. So it's I'm excited to be here. And so what's interesting is you may find my about me a little bit weird because it's not all of that rich education background, but because I'm talking about organization and how to manage your marketing, I actually felt like these were more applicable today because I just felt like in school I didn't get a lot of ideas or kind of training on how to manage your workload, especially when you add in kids and family. Like it's a lot, you know. When you're in college, that's your job, and then you get out of that and you're in the workforce and things can be overwhelming, and it's hard to separate your work at work and your home life. So since I started doing this, I can turn my brain off when I leave work and go and be a mom and dedicated with that and turn my work brain off. So I hope that you guys find this beneficial and you can do the same, because I think having a work-life balance is very important, and so I think it's going to be great. Part of my role, well, all my roles at Holy Trinity, I'm a one-woman show. So I designed and I manage all of our websites. I do social media. I do all of our graphic design work, our photography, our videography. I sometimes am IT for our teachers and staff, and I usually... Did you turn it off and back on? That's about the extent of my knowledge. So, you know, that's my training in IT. But, and I also do a lot of managing of like our audio and visual soundboard stuff. So a lot of things I do, I was actually self-trained and just learned on the job, like wearing all those different hats, like I'm sure all of you do. You put one hat on and then you change it. So I'm hoping that you guys get a lot out of this. Oh, and I do have a note too. As you can see, another kiddo on the way. So my pregnancy brain is real strong, so the ladies in the room can probably understand that. So if I lose my train of thought, we're going to get through it together, and it's going to be just fine. Okay, so that was about me. About our team. So we've grown quite a bit. So we actually now have 12 full-time church staff, 3 full-time pastors, part-time, executive director. You can see all of that. We also have over 40 full and part-time school staff. And then I put how many ministry and volunteer groups we have, because I personally find as a communications director, yes, I have to work with the staff, but you're also partnering with your volunteers and your ministry groups, right? So you have these people that need you, and then you also have all these groups that need you too. And it can be very hard to find time to manage that, processes to get information you need, because it's working with volunteers can be a challenge, right? So that's, I really try and think of them as a branch of our staff at church, because they are a part of the organization. When I started at Holy Trinity 4 years ago, we only had 2 pastors. We didn't have an executive director, and we didn't have a ministry coordinator. So as you can see, in the last few years, we have grown, which is fantastic. It also leads to a lot of growing pains, right? A lot of processes, a lot more people having opinions and things that you need. And then you add in, you've got your school staff. You've got to work with your PTO, your parent groups, the teachers that need things from you as well, right? So I started to struggle with, or I guess the first obstacle that led me on this journey to a new marketing strategy was just getting all the information became so hard. You have people on Sundays stopping you, needing things from you, giving, hey, can you put this in the e-news this day? You've got people sending you text messages, emails. So when you have all these different communication channels coming to you, you miss things, right? And it's not a good feeling. So that's kind of the first obstacle I found when kind of on my search for how can I do things differently, how can I make my life easier, but also let everyone know what our process is so they can feel confident in that their information is going to get shared. And I'm sure a lot of you spend a lot of your time tracking down information. That's just, we can be more efficient than that. We have better things that we can be putting our time on than asking for details from other people and having to walk down the hall and say, I still need the time for this event. If you can get that to me. So yeah, that's probably the first obstacle that led me on this search for a new strategy of how to coordinate everything. The next obstacle would probably be the amount of events that I'm trying to market and plan. Our church, we have about 40 events, a little bit more than that each year. So trying to create marketing plans for all of those in a timely manner that are strategic and effective, that can be a lot. And then in addition, I've got almost 30 school events that I'm creating marketing plans for and trying to execute. And then that's on top of just the weekly and monthly ministry meetings, but I don't have to do a lot of communication on that, but I do have to make sure rooms are reserved, it's on the calendar, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different moving parts. And I also felt like each year I had these events going on and I didn't have a good routine or a good way to save my marketing plans. So I felt like I was having to recreate the wheel every year, because it was like, oh, what did I do last year? Was that effective? Is that a good idea for this year? So I just felt like I was having to recreate my checklist every time. And if you can automate some of those systems, that's just going to change your life. It's going to be great. And also, these numbers obviously don't include the marketing that you have to do, just general school marketing, general marketing for your church. If you've got ministry or Sunday schools happening, discipleship hours, just on top of that, if you have regular podcasts going. So that's piled on top of all of that. So trying to keep up with the maintenance of what you should always be doing, the events that are sprinkled in, the PTO, the school stuff, and then the other ministries. There's just a lot of buckets and a lot of pieces happening. So we're going to dive into how we can really streamline that. So my goal today, I feel like sometimes at best practices, it's so great, but you can walk away feeling a little bit overwhelmed, because a lot of the things you learn about are long-term projects, a lot of things that are going to take some money, some time to implement. So my goal was to give you guys a plan that you can literally walk out of this room and start doing. So that's what I'm hoping for today, that you guys feel confident and actually walk out with, you can breathe a little bit. It's going to be a little stressful at first, I'm going to warn you, but once you get your system in place and start really just embracing it, it's going to be fantastic. So, okay, so we're going to dive into the actual meat here. So I actually can't take credit for the project brief piece. That is my boss, AJ. Everyone say hi, AJ. Okay, so I went to AJ probably almost a year ago, yeah, and just explaining, I just feel like my brain is so scattered. I can't get everything in order. I can't get the information I need. And actually around that time, my coworker, Jordan, she had just had her little girl that October before. And so between confiding in both of them, she was feeling overwhelmed too, because it's the being a parent at home, work, just trying to get organized. So between those two conversations, that kind of is what inspired me to really dive in and find what we're going to be talking about today, and then presenting on. That's kind of what inspired me to present today. So the project brief is what our staff submits to me regarding any events or thing that they need advertising for. So they have to fill out, and I'll pass out some papers at the end here. But basically, they have a printout, and they fill in all the blanks, and then at the bottom it gives them their next steps. So you can see their next step after they complete it. They make sure that their event date is open on the calendar. So then they book it. Our secretary puts it on the calendar. We have a shared Google Drive where they then save that. We work basically. Everyone works pretty much in Google at our staff. So they save that to the shared marketing folder so that way I can access it and anyone on our staff can access it. Then they let me know when it's been completed. And then if they need a meeting with me or the ministry coordinator who deals with our volunteers, that's when they'd set up those meetings. A lot of times our meetings end up being most of our ministry staff because we work very closely as a team. So one-on meetings don't happen very often, but we usually have, so we've got our outdoor movie night coming up, so we'll usually have a team meeting on that. But that's kind of the start of an event for them, the workflow that they follow, so then every piece of information that I need is on one sheet of paper. So I don't have to get bits and pieces. And if they don't have all the answers, they can start that project brief and then fill it in as they go. So then it's still on one sheet of paper. It's not multiple emails. It's not one email and a text message. It's all right there. So in the second, if you guys are looking for a way to streamline how members are giving you information, this has been working really well. We have two different forms. We have an announcement form and then a event online form. So it's all Google forms, so very easy to make. On the handout, I'll have the link for you guys too. But basically, they just go online. All those things are customizable for you. So like I said, you can customize it to your needs. So I have information such as facility needs. Do they need tables and chairs? What times do they need the doors open? Do they need volunteers? Do they need security? All those kind of in-depth questions go there. And once they submit it, it goes to our secretary, to me, our director of music in case there's any music needs, our facilities director, and our ministry coordinator. So you can set up on Google notifications. So if that gets filled out, every person gets that notification. We all get the same information at the exact same time. So it leads to a lot less miscommunication between us because I think a lot of us assume everybody knows things because I think we all move so fast these days that things get missed, or you think, oh, I already told that person something, or oh, they don't need to know. Like, I think everybody these days likes to be well informed, and so this is a way that we're able to accomplish that. So this is the project brief example. And so I have a full printout for you guys that you can take home with you. So basically, like I said, everything can be customized. If you feel like, some of the things are a little bit repetitive or you don't need that, take it out. You don't need it. And so this is the example for our outdoor movie night coming up. You can see she actually put the date of the movie night kind of in the wrong spot, but that's okay. The information's there. She gives me, this one's a really great example because she goes really in depth of the objective and the purpose for this event. So it gives me a lot of background when I'm forming kind of phrasing for marketing and who I'm trying to target. Because this is letting me know this is a community event. So my marketing efforts need to be more external, definitely internal for sure, let them know it's happening, but I can provide resources for our members to go invite people in the community and then do specific targeting for the community. So she did a really good job laying that out for me. And there's going to be obvious ones where you're like, of course it's a community event, but having it written down really helps you kind of build out a plan in your head. And she at the bottom that's where I have them put like any suggested verbiage. So that is really helpful for specifically our ministry staff if they have certain wording that they really want to use for a certain Bible study or church like prayer event, just because I can't read minds, and if that's the direction they want to go, that helps me to include that word and that verbiage in the marketing. So this is just continued. This is the deliverables and format. This is where they can suggest to me what marketing they want. And so this is kind of where, as the professional, you get to use your opinion and say, you know what, that's not a good idea. We're not going to do that. And then also, but in fact, add on to that of like, you know what, they're missing some really key pieces in their deliverables that I think are really needed and can really assist with their marketing. So she's got a lot of the good ones there. So example, she didn't list texting, but I find texting to be extremely beneficial these days, so that is something I would add. And then we'll go over breaking down the deliverables a little bit more later. And this is the bottom of it. So she has the benefit because she's our volunteer coordinator, so she kind of gets a little bit more specific with the event volunteers because she knows exactly what she needs. So that's a little bit different when it's not her filling it out, but everyone does a pretty good job of being specific with their needs of the deliverables and specifically the event volunteers. And so we'll keep going. Okay, so this is where you guys are going to see me totally nerd out because this thing has changed my life. This is called ClickUp. Have any of you guys heard of this before? A couple, yeah. Okay, so this is basically a project management tool for teams to work together, but I have adapted it to use it for all of my marketing needs, but we still use it as a team. Not everyone on the team uses it, which is fine, but for those of us who work really closely together in marketing and event planning, it has like been a game changer for our workflow. So I'm probably going to come around here so I can point to stuff. I talk with my hands a lot. So when you create, it's called your workspace. So this is my Holy Trinity workspace. Did I nerd out and actually make one for my home? I did. So does my husband love it? No, he does not. So these are called your spaces. So you can see my spaces right here. We have different ones broken out for our staff. So that way everyone has their own section where they can manage it how they would like. This is going to be your home screen. So you can't see it, but right here it says home. So this is what you're going to live on your daily basis. This is actually what I have dual screens. I have this pulled up about 90% of my day. I have this pulled up because it helps me know what I'm doing, what's coming next. If I have a pocket of free time, I can go look at my long-term project list, see what I can start working on. So within your spaces, so you can kind of see it down here a little bit, you've got folders and you've got lists. So we'll kind of go into that a little bit deeper. But basically you can see this is going to be, it'll populate what's trending. So if you've got a project that you keep opening up, it's going to be your trending project. So you can kind of see, keep that top of mind, kind of a priority. Here is your to-do list. And so obviously when I took this picture, I had a pretty light day. It accomplished a lot. It was kind of towards the end of the day. So I'll populate what's today. This is in January. I got a little behind. But it gives me those nice little red reminders that, does anyone have those red ones on their phone that just like drive them crazy, like unread emails? Yeah, it kind of does the same for me. It like triggers like, oh, this is driving me crazy. So it tells you what's overdue and then the date that it was due. So it's a good tool to kind of keep those things that you've had to put on the back burner. They're just going to keep bugging you. So it's great. If you scroll down, you'll actually be able to see projects that are coming up or tasks that are coming up. So then if you get done with your day, you can scroll down and you're like, you know exactly what you're going to start on next because you can work ahead on it. And then start beating those timelines. You can set dates based on when it's due or based on when you want to start working on it. That's kind of a personal preference thing. I do a little bit of a mixture. So my e-news I send out every Tuesday. So that populates. If I have to add anything, it's going to populate on Tuesdays. So I have one that says send out e-news. But then I also have a task. You can see this is the space, communications and marketing. This is the folder, marketing plans, and that's the list. So then I can see exactly, okay, I need to add Lent to my e-news today. So that's going to kind of give you all the details right there. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm sorry, I'm going really fast.
Is the software free?
It is. Yeah. So it is free up to 5 spaces, which it should be enough for everybody. We got a little detailed, but you can also combine those spaces and have just different folders within it to kind of do a workaround. Yeah.
Do you have the slides available to share?
Do I have what?
Your presentation?
Yes, it's all uploaded on the app. Yeah. So everything's there.
Web-based or is it an app?
It's web-based, but it's also both. So I have a reminder at the end, but it is web-based, but they have a app you can download on your desktop. They have an app for your phone, and they also have an app for your watch. So it's kind of all integrated, which some people love like me, and some people are like, I can't get away from it. So, yeah.
Does it send you push notifications then, or is it just this?
Yes. So we'll talk notifications here in a minute, but yeah, everything can be totally customized and sent. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. Okay, so I wanted to give you kind of a real situation. So we looked at the movie night project brief, right? So now you have that in your hands, you have the information. What do you do with it, right? So this is what the movie night marketing plan looks like in my ClickUp. So if you go to communications, click the marketing plan folder, select movie night, this is what you're going to see. So I just started building it out last week, so there's still some fine tuning to do. But you can see up here, that's kind of my event write-up. I took that from what she suggested. I still need to kind of smooth it out, plug some stuff in. But that's where like my marketing phrasing lives. So if anyone's looking for, gosh, we've got this event coming up, but I don't want to have to do the write-up for it, or I don't know what to say, they can go to my space, find it, copy and paste it to whatever they need, so they have access to it. This is my to-do list. So I took what Jordan requested and I plugged it in, and then I assigned dates that I wanted to go to. So when I'm building my marketing plans, I really look at it, and I think there's actually a question that someone posted about this ahead of time, but how do you kind of build out a plan where you're marketing to different generations, right? Which is so hard to do because marketing for a church is so different than anything else. So I was thinking earlier today, I was like, man, it is so different because there's like Kendra Scott, you know your demographic, you know your audience. It's women, probably in 30s to 50s, right? Very narrow. With churches, you have to figure out how to market and communicate to, young kids, teenagers, all the way up to people, 80s, 90s. And so there's not one answer. All your churches and schools probably have different demographics based on your membership and your community. So I don't have like the perfect answer because it is dependent on your own community. But for us, we have such a wide range of people. I really try, and when I build this out, I make sure add to March newsletter, that's our print piece. I'm going to make sure it's in our print piece to reach that older demographic. If it's a different kind of event that's targeted towards like seniors, I might send them a printed invitation to it, something more personal. But something like this, it's more community-based. I'm probably going to go more social media. I find more return with that. With social media ads, you can better track and analyze your return and how your ads are going. So I don't have the perfect answer to how to make sure you don't leave out generations, but you want to make sure you make an attempt to reach all of them, depending on the event, depending on your own church demographics and your community. Yeah?
Would you change your verbiage on those platforms to stay clearer to that generation?
It depends on the event. A lot of time, I'm going to be honest, because we have so many events that I'm trying to push out, I might change a word or two here, but usually I base it off of what the standard one I have up above, just for time's sake, because it is just me running around like crazy. So if you have the time and you feel like there are certain words you could change that would be more appealing to a different generation, I would say try and do that as much as you can. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before I keep going? Okay, cool. So the other thing you can see on here is your status to do. The other thing in ClickUp, you can totally customize what that says based on your workspace, your folder, and your list. So don't feel like you're tied down to that. The statuses I created, I have to do, I have in progress, I have waiting on approval, and then completed, of course, my favorite. So these are going to be all of your tasks. You can see this one has an arrow right here. So that means that there are subtasks within that. So what I do with my graphics is I create my graphics, and then my subtasks I have published to our worship loop and published to our TV screens. So that way I make sure, yeah, I created the graphic, but I want to make sure they go to where they need to go, right? So that's something where in my brain just makes sense, but you don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want. So, like I said, here are the due dates. So I really try and spread things out. So I might create the Facebook event one week, and then the next week send the flyer home. So I really try and stagger because I have so many events going on. I don't want on a Tuesday all of my printed flyers for 4 different events going home to the school. You have to really stagger it so that way they're not getting all flyers one week and all texts one week. So it has to really stagger and flow. I feel like that's the best, but when you've got so much going on, it's really hard to map it out. Yeah.
I have a question about timing events.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, you know, you don't want to be asking your congregation to donate for 3 community events plus the high school youth trip
Yeah.
at the same time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So because your communications, like, and I'm guessing you probably know better than anybody else everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Are you part of those conversations about, well, maybe we want to hang off on
Yeah.
this one, or do you? What's the best way you found of helping everybody be informed of what's happening, so that you don't have 3 members trying to publicize the same thing at the same time,
Yeah.
and your process for telling people, like, well, we can't do that one yet.
That's
It's
a great question. Yeah, for sure. No, there's definitely been times where we've had different, honestly, donation collections of, we had a shoe drive like last month. We constantly have food drives, you know, even that kind of is the same application as far as raising money and kind of collecting things. And you definitely don't want your congregation to feel overwhelmed with, gosh, all they do is want. And so staggering the events where you give a little back, like a fun movie night, really helps break it up. Now that's not always possible, but I'd say I really try and be strategic with not having more than one really event or donation going on at a time, which is hard when you've got multiple groups needing things. But we work really well as a staff. In our staff meetings, we discuss that. We talk about, hey, you know what, we've already got this going on at this time. Can we push yours back a month? We did that with our mission team's trivia night last fall. We had so much going on. We just didn't feel like it was going to be successful because we were already asking the congregation for so much. So I'd say that's really working with your volunteers and working with your staff and just having a team mindset of like, let's find the best way we can do this, because if we're asking too much, we're all just going to get just a little bit when we want it to be a really successful event for everyone. So I think if you approach it, I think about how you approach the people with one, like why you're asking them to move it or why this date's not going to work, and just really tell them, I want you to be successful, and for you to be successful, we shouldn't have 3 fundraisers going on at the same time. So let me help you.
And thank you, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And then a follow-up question to that is there any kind of streamlined approval process? Like, are you the first person to see an event a member wants to do, and then do you ever need to pass that by pastors, or
Yeah.
like, does this align with our vision? Like, how do you work with like making decisions about events?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say our gatekeeper is probably more our secretary right now, but her and I work very closely together. So usually if we have an event request come in, we start talking, and actually our lead pastor's right there. Say hi, Jonathan. Then we usually take it to him next. And sometimes he may already know it's happening, and then he told the member to submit the event request. So it's very situational on the pastors could already know, and they told them to go fill out the form, or the form was filled out, and then we double check and make sure that it's good to go. So usually he's the gatekeeper after Alicia, and we go and make sure, hey, is this good to go? That's kind of our process, but I'd say over communicating is going to be best in every situation, because there have been times where we've dropped the ball or miscommunicated, or we thought he knew, but then the person did it anyway. I don't know. There's, working at church, there's always something. Yeah.
Quick question about the form, like for your members, where do you make that accessible? How do they know?
Great idea. Yeah.
Because I don't know that I want to put it out for everybody, like on our website. But
Yeah.
members need to know where to find it.
So ours lives on our website. So I created a event page which has the event button. It's like an event request form right at the top. And then if they scroll underneath that, that's where they'll see a little breakdown of our top events happening that month with kind of a drop down arrow. They can get all the details, and then our full calendar underneath that. And I created that drop down because we have so many like regular meeting events. It just clogs up our calendar. So I created that little broken down area just to help clear it up so they know the big events that everyone should know about. But that button takes them straight to the Google form. So we haven't had any weird things about like outside people. I don't think I
just know we sometimes get requests from community members for like spaghetti dinners and things like that that come to our secretary, whether they're mailed or whatever.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if that became a problem with people.
We haven't had that yet, so that's been kind of interesting. And it probably depends on if your church is open to having outside events. Every church has different policies and different procedures, so if you're open to having outside events, I would have it on your website, because you still want those people, once it gets approved, to fill out that form so you have the details. If you're not open to having outside events, if you have a regular e-news or announcement email that goes out, you could probably put the link right in that email, and that's where you could direct them. So there's options, yeah.
What do you do for members who maybe aren't technology advanced?
They call our secretary, and she fills it out for them. So, yeah, great question.
So then how do you field the not so great ideas?
I just don't do them.
But then my question
Yeah.
is, how do you respond to that form that was then filled out? Because
Yeah, usually I pick up the phone
Okay.
And talk them through it. So if it's a date issue, if it's a marketing issue, I usually pick up the phone, call them. If they sent me an email inquiry with a follow-up, I'll follow up that way. But yeah, usually just a conversation.
handle that?
Yeah. So if there's a marketing request, I'm like, that's expensive. We can't afford that. I'm not going to do it. People are generally more understandable and accepting of your suggestions if you just pick up the phone or have a face-to-face conversation. So, and telling them the why. People really like that. So explaining, our marketing budget is not that big. You're wanting postcards for your event. It costs about $400 to send postcards for every time we do that. And my marketing budget is $2,000 for the year. So not the best use of resources. So usually when you give your why as the professional, they'll usually take that. I don't know that I've ever had a situation where someone was very angry with me that I didn't.
I know we've run a few where it's just like, this doesn't align with what St. Paul is doing. So it's like, it doesn't necessarily fit here.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do it over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, offering an alternative is great, yeah. But usually an explanation and just walking them through it face-to-face, phone call, they really just appreciate that out of respect. So, yeah. Okay. Does this list view make sense to everyone? We ready to move on? Great questions, though, guys. Okay. So, the one other thing I love about ClickUp, it has a lot of integration. So it integrates with Google Drive. So when you click the little I information box, it's going to pop out here. And that's where you can edit and type, copy and paste, and then add any attachments to the list. So I'm saying that because there's other areas you can add attachments. If you want attachments to the list itself, not the task, it's going to be here. So this is actually where I linked the project brief. So then moving forward, I don't have to go search for it in my drive. I just click there and it takes me straight to it. So love it. I also upload any graphics for the event there just so it's all in one place. Yeah.
And when you make a change on there, does that reflect on the calendar on your website immediately, or are you integrated onto your website?
So our website is Google, but I don't have it integrated here. Our secretary handles a lot of that. So any calendar changes she does separately in the Google app, and then we'd have to go in here to the project brief in here and update those, like if we had a date change or something. So it's a little extra work if you have changes, but it's not anything you guys can't handle. I have faith in you. Yeah.
What do you use for graphic design?
I use a little bit of Illustrator. Mainly I've really been embracing Canva. Yeah. They've really stepped up their game, and it makes me a little bit tempted to get rid of Illustrator because I'm like, it's so powerful now, and so easy to use.
And free for nonprofits.
And free for nonprofits, yes. So they haven't, I feel like I keep submitting the wrong form because I keep getting denied, but I try about every month.
Go on their Facebook page, open up Messenger on their Facebook page, tell them your problem. We had that too,
Okay.
and we were approved in 24 hours.
There you go. Secret tips.
really
Thank you.
Yes.
Chicago
Do
for the
it.
win.
Do it. We're gonna
Okay.
have up to 50 people on your team.
Awesome.
for
Okay.
free.
Perfect.
I was
Yes.
just going to add another really great one is Adobe Express.
Okay.
It's like Canva, but it's got a little bit of a different look to it.
Okay.
So sometimes-
Adobe Express. So perfect. We'll have to look for that one. So I do keep Illustrator around because I do some custom stuff. I was self-taught with graphics, and it is a fun little outlet for me. So I keep that one around in case I want to get real crazy. But I definitely tend to lean to Canva just because it's easy to use. It's pretty quick. Yeah, so it's a time saver for sure. Okay, so I brought you guys back to the home screen where you can actually see the home button this time. So I wanted to show you kind of the big picture things. Your favorites, you can add favorite folders, favorite lists. It's a shortcut area. That's where you get to all of the different spaces. Your dashboards, so that's where you can create custom dashboards. We'll walk through that in a minute. And then they got fancy, and they're like Google now, where you can actually write and build documents within ClickUp. So their ultimate goal is to be one app to replace them all, is what they say. So, love it. Over here, I don't have anything from 6 to 11, but you can integrate your calendar. So I integrate my personal daily calendar, so then all of my meetings will pop up, and then my tasks for the day are up there. So I usually put my tasks as an all-day thing because it's not really time-specific, but if you have a time-specific task, you can put it right in your calendar between what you've integrated with Google or other ones. Yeah.
If you integrate your calendar, maybe this is me being OCD. I like my work calendar alerts on my iPad and my personal calendar alerts on my phone. If I integrate them, is it automatically going to sync the push notifications?
No, it shouldn't. You should be able to customize it. And then you can also here, you can enable which calendars you want. So if you just want work, just put work. But all the notifications should be customizable. I haven't experimented deeply with the dual calendar notifications, but we can look at it for sure. Yeah.
Does it archive your tasks?
Yes. I don't know how long it saves them for. But here it says done. So you can click. So when I do my board reports for monthly board reports, I can go here because you do a million things. You're like, I know I did a ton this month, but like, what did I do? You can click that and scroll down and see. I did a lot. Yeah, he loves it. My list is always the longest.
We had to move to give me 3 things. Give me 3 things for you.
See, I'm just like, I can't pick and choose. Just send them all. He's like, no, stop it. So, so archiving, I don't know how long they save when they're done. But I'm going
You have an event that you repeat every year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be real good. Okay, so really fast, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this is boring. So these are your full members. So like I said, if you've got more than 5 spaces, you're going to want to upgrade to the paid plan, which is about $60 per person per year. So still pretty affordable. But like I said, you can totally get away with the free one. And then with each paid person, you get guests. So our pastors weren't utilizing it very much, so I said, you know what, no offense, I'm not going to pay for you. So I moved him to our guest. So guests cannot see all the spaces. They can only see folders and lists that they've been invited to. So if you've got people who don't need to see everything, just put them as a guest, and their space is just going to show access to. If I want him to see the marketing plan folder, he's going to see marketing plan folder, and that's it. So that's totally customizable, but it's also a cost savings for you if you have even members that you think would utilize it that are on ministry teams that do a lot of close work. I'd suggest getting them on here as a guest. Yeah. Okay, I talked about integrations a little bit. I'm not going to dive in because we all use different things, but these are some of the integrations that ClickUp has. They even have the ability to integrate your email. I do think there's an extra cost with that, but that's an option as well. Slack is probably the most used one. We don't use that as a staff, but I hear it's pretty awesome. We were talking about notifications. So this can be a little bit overwhelming, but all of the notifications can be customized. So when I got everyone started on this, everyone was so mad at me because they were like, there are so many emails. I'm like, oh, just hold on. So hold on and tell your people to hold on, because it takes a minute to get it set up how you want. So basically, you can kind of set your watcher settings. It kind of makes more sense as you're working in it, so I'm not going to get like real detailed with the notifications because it probably just like will overwhelm your brains. But everything can be customized. So if you don't want any emails from ClickUp, just turn them off. If you don't want any push notifications from the app, just turn them off. And that's customized for everything. So basically, this is for the workspace itself. So I don't want to see everybody's tasks that they have created and assigned. That's too much. But tasks assigned to me, give me all the notifications. So I want an email, I want a browser notification, I want an app notification, because I don't want to miss anything. So status changes, I like to know like if a project's completed. That's a good one to do. If someone changed who's doing the project, I'd want to know that too. Here are some more. So due date changes. I don't have emails on that one because, like I said, I live in the app all day long, that I kind of will see it change itself. You can set reminders if you have a project coming up that's at a certain time. It'll notify you however you choose. The one that drove everyone crazy, and it drove me crazy, was I got an email probably at the start of the day with all of my overdue tasks. Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to see it. Please don't. Hard pass. So I turned those off. And like I said, because I live in the app all day, every day, I'm like, I see it. I swear. I know I'm late. Like, I get it. So that's probably the one I'd recommend. Just turn it off. It's fine. Okay, I briefly touched on dashboards. So this is a dashboard I created. They have auto-populated ones, but you can create custom ones, which is what I did. So you can kind of see our team, really Jordan and I, because we work so closely on the marketing and the events, are the ones that utilize it the most, obviously. So if you're a manager or a pastor or a director, and you like to know what your team is working on, and hey, maybe I need to see who's a little bit strapped this month, or who can take on an extra project or an extra few tasks, this would be if you get everyone using it, this would be a really easy way to be like, oh, Alicia can handle some more, I'm going to give this to her, and that kind of thing. And you can also see workload and current overdue tasks. So I'm just a nerd and I like playing with the dashboard, so I set that up. But it's a nice thing you can utilize. And so I actually set one up, not this exact one, but a different one that's totally mainly just my stuff. So that way when I go on maternity leave, AJ can click that dashboard and see how many overdue projects I have. You can see the tasks that are coming up that are just assigned to my name. So that way whoever's covering can really kind of live in that area and see, oh my gosh, we're falling behind on Becca's stuff. We need to kind of get more team members on it. So that's a great benefit for us. Here's a different dashboard that I just set up to show you options. If you're a fan of pie charts, there's pie charts. You can see tasks by assignee. So all of this is customizable. You just click the little settings wheel. You can set it up, but they give you recommendations and fun things to try. So, okay, so now we're going to get really into the task portion, the meat of the presentation. So, I'm going to walk you through this. I think I set up an example of our bingo night that happened not too long ago. So, I like to use the bottom button. It will auto-populate kind of your first list that you have. You can also create tasks if you're in like the vacation Bible school list. You'll be able to see your to-do things and add tasks here. But I think it's just cleaner no matter where you're at in ClickUp, you can just kind of customize it and then send it to the list you want here. So here's where you'll put your task name. So you can do that however you want. So I keep it pretty basic, like add to the website, because then I'm going to assign it to my list, and then I'm going to assign it to myself. So this is really important, this part, especially if you're assigning it to someone else, because if they, for some reason, or if you put it in the wrong list or a list that they're not highlighted on and you don't assign it to them, they're not going to see it. So you have to have someone assigned to it in order for it to populate on that home screen. So that's the part that's like really important. You can type a description if you want to give details of what they need to do, add any attachments, and then this is where reoccurring. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so a lot of our events reoccur every year, right? So I talked about earlier how I was struggling with, I just felt like I was recreating the wheel every time and just like, what did I do? Did it work? This is what you'll want. So you can reoccur yearly. When the task is closed, create new task. So then next year, when bingo night comes around, I'm going to get a notification and a task created automatically that says publish Facebook event. Create your graphic, send your flyer home. It's going to populate based on the date that I did this year. So if you have a date change, all you have to do is go to that plan and kind of readjust a little bit. But it's going to be a heck of a lot easier than trying to create it from scratch. So,
and it adjusts those dates. So if you publish the Facebook event 4 weeks before, in a year from now, it's reminding you at 4 weeks before that.
So it'll remind you on the date you select. Okay. So if I select February 23rd, it's going to remind me on February 23rd. So that's why if they move bingo up a couple weeks, I've got to be a little bit aware of that so I can kind of push everything up 2 weeks, that kind of thing.
What if you save like graphics and things to that event? Is that saved in there as well?
Yeah, so it depends on where you save it. That's why I think it's great to save graphics under the list itself, because the list will stay. Your tasks, if you create new task, is going to close out that task. You can select settings of replicate everything. So there's like a whole bunch of checkboxes where you can customize what it's going to save and recreate for the next year. But I would encourage you to just save it at the list portion, so you're for sure it's there. It's going to be there until next year. Another thing I do is I create a lot of folders in Canva, so that way bingo night, I can just change the date. Sometimes I like to get a little creative and mix it up, but I've started kind of saving those events and graphics in there, so then I'm not having to start from scratch each time on the events where the graphics are still modern, still up to date, still look good. Don't make extra work for yourself if you don't have to, right? Okay, does that calendar adding a task make sense so far? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is an example. So Lauren, LM, she's our school secretary. So she helps me with communication to the school. So what I've done is I've created a task for bingo night. The task name is email reminder, which she knows send an email home to the school. You can see this is the view of, she saw the task, she opened it already. So she can see that I put in the exact verbiage that I want in the email. If you scroll down, unfortunately it cut it off, but you can see here, I uploaded a graphic for her to use in the email, so she can download it straight there, then copy and paste my write-up. And you can see I set a due date of February 3rd. So I want that email going out on February 3rd. And so when I assigned her this task, based on her notification settings, it's going to be different however you guys want it, she should have received an email, and then she should have received a push notification on her phone. So, and then also probably a notification within the app, which you'll see. But yeah, so it really has streamlined everything for me. And then since I assign the task to her, when she marks it complete, I get a notification that it's been completed. So project management wise, if you have a team, you're going to know when stuff is done. So you don't have to nag everybody and say, did you do this? Did you do this? You can tell right away when it happens. So maybe that's a bit of the control freak in me. But when you have so many things you're trying to juggle and balance, by getting that notification, it takes that worry out of my mind. So when I go home that night, I know it was done. So it's just honestly been great for me.
So the other person has to have this app in order for them to do it?
Correct.
Is that correct? There's no way around that?
They can just open it up in their internet browser. They don't have to have the app itself, but they do have to have a login. And yeah, so yeah, and they, like I said, they could be a member or just a guest depending on their needs. If you need them to build their own lists and spaces and stuff and need all the stuff, or if you just kind of need to keep track of the tasks and projects that you assign them, if that makes sense. Any other questions on this? Yeah?
What was the limit for the 3?
5 spaces. Yeah. Oh, my time. We're doing good. Okay, so the other cool thing, how many of you guys like love and hate email like all at the same time? Like, I swear I love it, and then I'm like, I know I got this email and I can't find it anywhere. It drives me absolutely crazy. I swear it messes with me. But with this, you can do communication with your team through this. So basically, there's 2 ways to do it. This is, like I showed you earlier, the kind of information button. And then you've got your write-up for the list, any list graphics. And then I had a question for our school director, so I tagged her, wrote my question. So then later, if I am starting to really get into the deep dive of like setup and coordination of the event, but I can't remember what Debbie said, if I was able to do this or not, I can go to the list or the marketing plan that I created and be like, if she hadn't answered yet at this point, but I could be like, that's what she said. And rather than searching through all these emails, it's all just talking to each other and connected. So yeah, like I said, this was the list view. You can also do, I think I showed it, maybe I didn't. You can also do the same thing with tasks. So if you've got a question on a task, you can comment, and it all links right there. And I will say, I operate the school a little bit differently than the church marketing plans. So under my space, I have marketing plans and then all the lists. For the school, because I do a little bit more than just marketing with the school, sometimes I end up running sound for their programs or helping with setup. I just do a little extra. I have under the HTLS, which is our school, I have just events, all of that there. So then there might be more than marketing on there. I also did that so that way our school director and secretaries can start kind of mapping out how they plan their events, because our school director is retiring this year. So trying to brain dump what she does in this, so then it repopulates for us next year. It'll kind of help in that situation a little bit. So that part lives differently, but I can still access it easily. And that way Lauren, our secretary, just has an easier view in kind of her own space rather than having to go to mine. So this is just a picture of the options. So like I said, they have a mobile app. I love it. I personally like using the desktop better. You get just, it's a little bit, there's more meat to it, I guess is the only way I can explain it. You just get more of the detail from that. It's a little bit easier with the keyboard to navigate. Yeah?
Okay, maybe you went over this. If I do like a ClickUp with my personal email and can have one for my family and then do a work one. They can sync.
So
Does it have to be a team member on the same account to sync?
So, oh, this is not going to show. I think it's down here or up there. Pregnancy brain. It's one of the two. So top or bottom, you click and it just says change workspace. So basically, it keeps it separate. If you want your personal one in there, what I would do is just create a folder under your space and say home life or my stuff. And then you have your home list. So it kind of depends on if you want it that truly separate work life, or if it's easier to be like, okay, I need everything that I have to do this week or this today on my list. So that's a personal preference for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm scatterbrained.
Yeah.
Is there a way do you do like a keyword search? Like, I remember that I mentioned this. I can't remember what task, or is there something like that as part of ClickUp?
Not that I've found, but I also haven't looked for it.
Okay.
So see me after and I'll get your info, and then I'll see if I can do a little more research for you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so these are kind of your options. You can do some add-ons. It's got some Chrome voice assistant. I haven't tried the voice yet, but I'm really curious about that. I don't know. I don't quite even do that with my phone yet because I just feel like I'm talking to myself. So maybe that would be, I'd go too far. I'd go too crazy, guys. Okay, so that's pretty much everything in a nutshell. I know that was a lot of information, and it's honestly not even all what the program's capable of doing. It's extremely powerful. It has a lot of automations you can do if you do a lot more project management. You can kind of say like, okay, when a task like this gets complete, create this. Like it can get real wild. I'm too much of a control freak to use that many automations, but it's possible. So I guess I'll open it up for questions. This is my contact information. And actually, let me... AJ, in my bag, there's a black binder with some handouts.
My phone. How did you get your contact information on that QR?
Oh, yeah. So I think I use QR code generator.
We have a QR code generator. I just didn't know if, like, on my iPhone, it's automatically popped up.
Yeah.
Creating contact.
Yeah. So the website QR code generator, it has an option. If you scroll down, it says create QR code, and it gives you the option of like website, contact, event landing page, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think I created one for AJ and myself, and all my other team was like, oh, I want one, and then I didn't get it done before today because I didn't put it on my ClickUp, guys. Okay, so I don't think I printed enough because I had more people than I expected, but these can also be found on the app. I uploaded the full presentation and this document, which is just where you can find the examples of the announcement and event links, and then also the project brief. Any other questions about ClickUp or honestly just marketing events in general?
How do you manage, especially a volunteer coming to you last minute saying, I need a flyer tonight?
Ooh.
Tomorrow, like how do you kindly say, it's all right, that can't happen?
Yeah.
But they're so heavily involved, you don't really want to say no.
AJ will tell me I am the worst at saying no.
She's not the one to answer the question.
My answer is, I probably just do it. But I'd say I also analyze the situation. I look at, is it really a need that has to be done tonight, or can it wait till the morning? I am getting better at boundaries of not answering phone calls past 7 and trying to not check my email. So I'm getting better. I think utilizing the phrase like, I can get to it, let them know when you can get to it, is really good, and just let them know my day's full. I can get to it tomorrow or the next day. And in the future, I'd appreciate, a couple weeks notice. So, not the greatest answer for you. Volunteers, it's hard, yeah. Our ministry coordinator, I don't know that I would want her job. It's so hard. Yeah.
More of a change management kind of question. So you had to push out something new to your team. So how did you communicate that? What was your timeline? Because I know probably beyond myself, a lot of us are probably thinking the people in our organization that are going to be like, I don't know what ClickUp is, but I'm not going to try it.
For
How did
sure.
you manage that with
Yeah,
your team?
I probably could have rolled it out better, but I was on such a hard space, like mentally for myself, that I needed to do it right away. So if you have more planning time, like definitely kind of start building it out for them.
Yeah.
And then I went to them one by one.
Yep.
I don't know if that was the right approach, but then I could answer specific questions and train them on it rather than bombarding them in a staff meeting saying like, we're all going to do this.
And tasks first so that you can...
Building out the spaces and the lists at least to try and give them a visual and example of the best thing to do and how you saw it working.
Right.
And then kind of get them on board that way. I think I rushed it too much. Probably this guy up here was like, no, which is totally fine. And I think the other thing to consider too is this is going to be a big change for a lot of people. So I think showing them grace that like you might not love it, and I'd say that's okay. Like it depends on every situation, but we have a few staff members that are older and they're like, I've been doing this a long time and I just can't get this working for me, and I didn't push it. I said, you know what? We don't work that closely to where I need to monitor what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you just do your thing. This is a resource that's available if you'd like it, but if not, that's fine too. But I'd say the people I work closely with, I really push it more. And I kind of just almost every few weeks check in and say, how's your list doing? And then kind of show them almost like a new thing I found in ClickUp to keep them excited. But yeah, I'd say if you get it, a structure built out, and kind of just, that way they can see it.
Right.
And then encourage them to give it a couple months and just really see, is this something that's going to work for our team and help us? And then guess what? If it doesn't, no harm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation for a communication timeline? Like, I have a big event. How far in advance should I start communicating to the church about it? I was doing like 6 weeks, but what do you recommend? Yeah, so that's a really good question. It kind of depends on the event that's happening, in my opinion. For our really big events, I probably, I typically do 8 weeks. Okay. But like I said, I stagger things. Right. So I do a save the data 8 weeks. 7 weeks out, I add another element. 6 weeks out, add another element. And then about 4 weeks out, that's when I really start pushing it and kind of just hitting them hard with it. And then usually like texting is my more urgent thing. So that's like the week before I send a text. So I would say on average, like our normal smaller events, announcements, I do 4 weeks out. The average person attending church only goes once a month. So it is hard. But if you do it too long, it's just static. They're not going to see it. So I think 2 weeks, way too close, because you're not going to hit everybody with that 1 month. 4 weeks is a pretty safe bet. And now that a lot of stuff is digital, you know you're probably going to be hitting them even if they're not sitting in the pew. Good question, though. Thank you. Hopefully that helps. Yeah.
You've mentioned texting a couple times. Notifying people. Do you have like a text platform that you use? Like how do you...
So I actually just switched platforms recently, and I'm really glad I did. I now use, it's called Easy Texting. It is paid, obviously. You can buy credits. I think we're on the like 18,000 credit plan, and that's for the year. It's pretty cost effective, especially when you look at like postage and all that. You're like, oh, this is nothing. This is doable. And I like this one because I can schedule it out. Our old software, I had to send it in real time. So I was working weekends to send stuff out, and it's just hard. I have a toddler. You know, it's like, hold on, Dylan, you take Lincoln. I've got to send this text out at noon today. It was hard, but this is, I can schedule it out as far out as I want. So I usually put like on my ClickUp the date that I want it to go out, and then if I have time and I can work ahead, I can schedule it earlier, but for that same date that I want.
And the credits are like one per phone number, like that you text out?
Yeah. So if your message is so long that it like has to break it up in 2, that would be 2 credits. But if it's like has like certain number of characters, I think it's like 160. But yeah, I can usually, I'm so cheap, I'm like, I'm going to get it in 1. So, yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
What's your frequency of texting? Like,
Yeah.
How many does each member get, on the course of a week?
I don't utilize it that much because I am scared people are going to get sick of me. So I'd say they probably receive 2 a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I could do more, but like I said, we have so many different platforms that I really try and spread it out and be strategic with, I only text them on events that apply to the whole congregation. I wouldn't text the whole congregation for an LWML potluck or a youth event. And then our youth actually have their own little small platform that they use texting. So that's another option too, of breaking it up into segments.
And then are you able to pull your church software into that app, the Easy Text, so you're not manually inputting every
Yeah, so I kind of have a hop to a hop. So we use Realm for our database, which then I integrate to Constant Contact, which then Constant Contact integrates to Easy Texting. So it's a bit of a jump, but it was nice, so I didn't have to manually enter everyone. And then going forward, I created a campaign of they text HCLC to this number to opt in. So, and then any new members that graduate from the new member class, I usually just get their info and I
And then in
add them
Easy
in.
Text, can you have different groups that
Yep, you can do as many different groups as you want. So with Realm, there is texting in Realm, but it wasn't working great for mass texting. We were having a lot of delivery issues, so that's why I switched to this new software. But Realm's great for like smaller group texting right now. So then I have, I think, our choir, our grocery ministry, and our youth, I enabled texting on Realm. So then the leaders of those groups can send out texts without having to go through me. So it just saves me some steps. So any like communication thing like that you can delegate, do it. Because if they're coming to me saying exactly what they want in the text, I'm kind of like, the amount of time it took you to walk down here to tell me that, you could have just done it yourself. So I've really started letting go with that. I think a few years ago I probably would have been like, I'm going to do it. And now I'm like, here you go. I don't have time. So, great questions, yeah.
When you say you do a save the date 8 weeks out, is that normally like a blurb in the newsletter, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, it's kind of different based on the timing, because our monthly newsletter gets printed goes out the first Sunday of every month, or the last Sunday, kind of depending on how many days we're going to miss in the month. So it'll go in the printed newsletter if that time matches up. It'll go on our announcement loop before service is mainly the main one. And then
for that week, or you start doing?
I usually do the save the date up until the 4 weeks, and then I change the graphic to the more detailed, because by that time you'll have a lot of your event logistics kind of nailed down and set, or at least I pray they're set. And so then you can really pivot from a save the date to here's the event details, here's where your ticket sales are, or you can go buy tickets, that kind of situation. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you use ClickUp to manage a social media calendar as well?
I put on there when I want some posts to go out. So every Monday I have one that a task that pops up that says prayer of the day, graphic, and post. So yes and no. And then I do when I want like Facebook events to post. If I want certain Instagram ads to run, I set reminders in there. But you still have to manually like go to your your Meta business account to do that. Yeah.
Do you always work like 2 weeks ahead, and how do you handle people that come to you that say like, well, I want to do my event this Friday, and it's like Tuesday?
I think our staff is pretty good about saying no to situations like that. It depends on the event. If it's just like a small group of people wanting to host their ministry group's dinner, I don't know, we're pretty lax with that, I'd say. It all depends on how much staff involvement there is. If it's like a large event, I'd say we're like, that's too quick of a turnaround. We need at least four to 5 weeks, I'd say, is kind of our average to get communication done properly.
So like, because my battle is we want to be able to schedule an email, but then we get people like that want to get the event added in last minute to the email, and then it's like, well, I've already scheduled it. So then it's like, am I not advertising this event at all? I'm just telling them like you're on your own, or am I going to be nice?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because it's like my cringy, like, I just want to be a good person. Like I said, I think it comes down to the situation and what event it is. If it's truly an event that, okay, this might be the wrong wording. event that your church is really behind and really passionate about and really sees an impact and a benefit, I'd say maybe give it to them this time and say, next time, like, I won't be able to do this. Like, I need it 4 weeks out. But if it's, like I said, kind of a smaller event of, like, not to discredit, like, our quilting ladies, but, like, they're having, like, a lunch, but it's just 3 of them. Like, I don't know. Then I'd say, like, I've already scheduled this out. I can't do it this time. Give it to me earlier next time, and I can be sure to get it in. And so I kind of had that situation this past week of our LWML. They do a food drive all year long, and so it's like they want me to advertise it all year long, but I have to do an ebb and flow because, like I said, otherwise people won't see it. So she asked for more advertising, which I said she asked for it in the printed newsletter and the e-news, but with Lent and Easter coming up, my letter is going to be full. So I said, you know what, I don't know that I can get it in the printed newsletter just because of all the extra events, but I can definitely get it in the e-news for you. And she was like, that's wonderful, thank you. So I think there's a little bit of give and take that you can do with people. Yeah.
Something I did when I started communications is I made a table, for lack of a better word, of the different ways, platforms we have for advertising, whether it be bulletin or pre-service announcements, or whatever it is, and then kind of described the purpose or the reach of each one of those, and then a timeline for when I would need information in order to get it on there. And then I distributed that to all of the ministry leaders, and just so that there was at least some expectation that okay, if you want it in the monthly newsletter, I need it by the 17th.
Yeah.
And then at least everyone has seen it once.
And it's preventative, so then if they come to you, say, remember this list I gave you? Right there. So I think that's really a good tip.
You have to make the decision on a case-by-case basis, but at least it gives you a start for helping set expectations.
For sure, for sure. And if you have expectations or limits on what some ministry groups or volunteers can promote wise, so that announcement and event form, it gives a list of like what's the word I told you guys, my brain, like kind of advertising opportunities and where that they can post, so they can check box what they want for me, and that gives me like a starting point at least. But I like the kind of the reach and the expectation. I think that's something I could definitely add to mine.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you have your $2,000 budget a year, but there are other ministry teams that have their budget. So are you able to draw from some of their budget if they're willing, able? Is that a touchy question?
No, not at all. It's definitely strategic a little bit. So with some of our larger events that I didn't account for or didn't plan on, I definitely work with Jordan and say, hey, can you reserve like $200 for a banner for this? And she's like, yeah, no problem, I got it. So there is some give and take with that, for sure. And the school has their own advertising line item too. Yeah. Any other questions? No, thank you guys. Yeah. Okay, well that's all I had. I'll stay up here a little bit if you guys have questions that I can help answer, but hopefully this was beneficial for you guys. Yeah, thank you.